Hello, hello, this is Mrs. Samuels. We are going to solve systems of equations by substitution. So we've watched that video that says plug it in, and that's what we're going to do. So we need to first find our substitute. So I'm going to find this is my sub, and this is wherever we have y equals, wherever we have a y, we're now going to plug in our 2x plus 3. So I see that there's a y here. So I'm going to plug this in here. So instead of writing a y, I'm going to write 2x plus 3. So instead of writing a y, I'm going to write 2x plus 3 equals 5x. And now I can solve this system. I can solve this multi-step equation, Circle my variable, draw my line. I need to get my circles or my variables together. I see that I need to move them to this side. The inverse to a positive 2x is a negative 2x. On this side, this will cancel out, and I'll have 3 equals 5x take away 2x is 3x. I circle my variable, draw my line. When two things are smushed together, it's multiplication, inverse operation, division. Divide both sides by 3, and on this side, I'll have an x equals 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we know that for systems of equations, my final answer needs to be a coordinate point. So I need to have an x and I need to have a y. I just saw that my x is 1, so I'm going to plug in a 1. And now I just need to figure out my y. I'm going to pick this equation because this is in slope-intercept form, and it has less numbers. So I'm going to start with that. And this time, instead of writing an x, I'm going to plug in my 1. So y equals 5 times 1. 5 times 1 is 5. So my y is 5. So I have my x and I have my y. So over here I have my x and I have my y. So my final answer to this system of equation with using substitution is 1, 5. Do another one. Get rid of that. My next one is going to look a little bit different. I always pick the equation that is in slope-intercept form for my sub. This means that instead of writing a y, I'm going to write down half x minus 5. Here is my y, so this is what I'm going to substitute in. This is what I'm going to plug in. So instead of writing 4x plus 2y equals 0, I'm going to write 4x plus 2 times a half x minus 5 equals 0. So I've just taken this and I have plugged it in. If at any point in time you need to pause this video because I'm going to keep on going, feel free to do that. If you are taking notes and copying, that's awesome. In order to solve this equation, I circle my variable and draw my line. I can't circle my variable yet because there are parentheses, so I need to distribute. So half of 2 is 1, or just an x. And 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. I did not use the 4x, so I write that down, and I did not use the 0. I circle my variables, draw my line. 4x plus x is 5x minus 10 equals 0. I didn't use the negative 10 and I did not use the 0, so I just dropped that down. Again, I circle my variable, draw my line. My circle is my last step. The inverse to a negative 10 is a positive 10. 0 plus 10 is 10. This will cancel out, so I have 5x. Again, I circle my variable, draw my line. When two things are smushed together, it's multiplication, inverse operation, division. It's going to divide both sides by 5. This will cancel out. I'll have an x equals 10 divided by 5 is 2. So my x is 2. So for my coordinate point, for my x and my x is 2. Again, I like to plug this back into the equation that is in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to start with that. And this time, instead of writing an x, I'm going to plug in my 2. So I have y equals a half times 2 minus 5. Half of 2 is 1. 1 minus 5 will give me negative 4. So y equals negative 4. So up here, my y is negative 4. So this is my answer to the system of equation. These are the only 2 points that will work for both equations at the exact same time. Last one by substitution. I see that this is an x equals, and although this isn't in slope-intercept form, I know that it has an x equals. So I'm going to choose this one to substitute in. So wherever I see an x, I'm going to plug this in, and I see one right here. So instead of writing 2x plus 4y equals negative 1, I'm going to write 2 times 5y plus 3 plus 4y equals negative 1. So I've just taken this and I've just plugged it in. From here, I can solve my equation. I solve equations by circling my variable, drawing my line. I can't do that because I need to distribute. 2 times 5 is 10y. And 2 times 3 is 6. I did not use the 4y, and I did not use the negative 1. I again circle my variables, draw my line. 6y plus 4y is 14y. I did not use the positive 6, and I did not use the negative 1. I circle my variable, draw my line. My circle is my last step. The inverse to a positive 6 is a negative 6. This will cancel out, and I'll have 14y equals, because these are the same sign, you're going to add, and then just take the sign. I circle my variable, draw my line. When two things are smushed together, it's multiplication, inverse operation, division. So I have y equals, and now I need to figure out what number goes into 7 and 14, and the answer is 7. So 7 divided by 7 is 1, and this will be a negative 1. And 14 divided by 7 is 2. So my y is negative 1/2. Now make sure you put this in the right spot. This says y equals, so this needs to go in the y. Now I can take this and plug this in. Now I'm looking at this and I see a half. Fractions are a little bit scary at sometimes, but I see a half. Do I want to take a half of 5 or do I want to take a half of 4? I'm going to choose to take a half of 4 because that seems a little bit easier. So instead of writing a y, this y here, I'm going to write a negative half. So 2x plus 4y, and this is right here where instead of writing a y, I'm going to change it. So 2x plus 4, and then this will be a negative half equals negative 1. Let's simplify this first. A negative half of 4, or half of 4 is 2, and then that'll be a negative. I did not use the negative 1, and I did not use the 2x, so I just dropped that down. I circle my variable, draw my line. My circle is my last step. The inverse to a negative 2 is a positive 2. Whoa. Because these are different signs, you're going to subtract. So you have a 1 and take the sign of the larger number, which is the 2. So it'll be a positive 1. It'll be equal to 2x. I circle my variable, draw my line. The inverse to multiplication is division. I'm going to divide by 2. So my final answer will be x equals 1/2. So my x coordinate is going to be a positive 1/2. So my x is going to be a positive 1/2. So the answer to this system of equation is 1/2 and negative 1/2. Alright guys, thank you so much. And I noticed just now I need to wash my hands and get a manicure.